Thank you very much. The organizers did very much today. It's incredible reading today's conferences and it's today. So I'm Sandra Batten, Senior Economist Research at the region. I'm Sandra Fellow at the Business School. And however, today I'm here as a person with professional capacity as a researcher. And so next slide shows that there are views and results of my research and do not represent three points. Next slide. So I'm going to start with the UK decarbonization policy, the decarbonization path. So there's a clear target, there's a clear path, it's almost where this appears in track. The latest national determinant so 2022 is updated, is in line with the net zero target 2050. But this didn't happen by chance. This is underpinned by a serious legislative structure and framework, which is the 2008 Climate Change Act, which then legislated the provision of the different carbon budgets. And then there is the powerhouses, technical powerhouses, the Climate Change Committee that sets this recommendation for this carbon budget. And so far, the first three carbon budgets have been met. And even a year ago, I presented this, and it didn't look like the carbon budgets have been met. Of course, everyone can see the COVID in this chart as well. And so the dotted line says the trajectory. So this has been achieved, however, everyone talks about the low-hanging fruit. It's been achieved mostly by the decarbonization in the power sector. So UK gives goodbye to the last local power plant around the first 2 years. But all the other sectors are still need to decarbonize. And renewable power, as you see in the next slide, it's not just enough to replace coal and gas with renewables. The demand for electricity that is expected due to the transition, the net zero transition, means that the demand for electricity will more than double to 2050. And so renewables will need to change to increase like 5-fold to meet this demand. There is still scope for some fuel, availability fuel, possibility of nurturing their CCC with the CCC illustrative pathway. And so this ambition, very ambitious decarbonization targets are pretty achievable from a technical point of view, but from an economist point of view, and this is what I really want to bring out today, is the macroeconomic point of view. And this kind of policy is bound to change economic agents' incentives and change behavior. And therefore, for our economists, there's a question of what new practices have to the economy. And so economists have always been looking at this chart of the integrated assessment model, they have a climate science model, and then an economic model. They highlighted it in gray. They highlighted it where the macroeconomic system and the impact of the economic policy on the economy. Next slide, please. And so we're very good. Mostly after graduate environmental economists, very good at devising, thinking about policies, designing them, taxonomies, we have different types. So the command and control, regulations is one group, and one group is market-based policy that affect economic incentives. So we have carbon taxes, zero emission trade schemes, and we know that they act in different ways, but they achieve the same outcome, which is the carbon price, so the carbon tax is supply, so we have that emission change with the emission trade scheme, it fits the amount of emission, the price becomes the bonus, and so on. And we have institutional approaches, disclosure of emissions, and it's not it's not even exhaustive because trade is not in there that we mentioned today, and finance is not in there. So, you know, on one hand, I'm sorry for taking this forward, but yeah. On the other hand, in the next slide, shows that the empirical approach on evaluating the impact of carbon processes is still very in infancy. So two main approaches are modeling approach and economic approach. So the modeling approach, you have a model, you simulate the model to understand the impact of a certain policy of the economy. On the econometric approach, you use data econometric models to estimate its impact. These studies, quite a large number of studies, they all have drawbacks. So on the modeling approach, different models give different answers. The answers are very sensitive to the assumptions you make. So again, it's very difficult to have one single message. The econometric approach, on the other hand, looks at actual data, but although we have maybe 2 or 3 decades of data on carbon taxes and carbon prices, the actual carbon prices have been observed in the past, and were far too low to be binding. And so, although the effects, it's not surprising that most of the studies find that there's not been no effect whatsoever on GDP or employment. There's been no displacement, labor. So we really haven't seen yet the level of carbon pricing we expect to have an effect on emissions and therefore to impact the economy as well. So we're still a little bit behind. And also the things that we studied that looked recent, mostly at the key top high-level economic variables of GDP, inflation, percentage of employment, some studies look at innovation. None of this speaks to really to the just transition in any detail. And also, can you show us the slides? Even if you were interested in the macroeconomic effects, just looking at headline GDP or inflation doesn't really tell you much. So when I started thinking about the impact of climate on the economy, because I work at Sandra Batten, and because I work on monetary policy, what matters to monetary policy is the balance between demand and supply. And so to understand the impact of climate on the economy, you need to understand the impact through every component of demand and every component of supply. And so I can't go this table, and there is some evidence behind this trends, mostly theoretical. But there is very little empirical evidence on where these effects are. So it's very difficult to just get a high level number because it doesn't really tell us the story, especially it doesn't really tell any sort of just transition story. So if we really want to look at the transition, just transition, where can we start? So in the next slide, I've taken this paper by Bona, which has a nice list of the kind of multi-dimensional effects of climate policy, and how to give us a guide of where to look for an assessment of just transition. So the spending effect, of course, with the carbon tax, will affect different people, different houses in different way, because it depends on how carbon intensive your consumption basket is. So that is already potentially affecting different parts of the distribution in very different ways. The functional distribution effect refers to the distribution between the inputs in production, capital, and labor. So different climate policies can have different effects on how the effects are felt. Can be different how the effects are felt depending on whether you're a worker or you're providing the capital. And there is also different wages across different sectors. And so policy can affect sectors in different ways, and therefore can change the relative wage of different sectors. And this will also have implication for just transition. Again, scale specific effects, so a policy that will favors certain types of skills, with favors certain type of workers, and with shape balance. And very importantly, the procurement effect, which we mentioned several times, it's the benefits that we heard about. So in the short term, climate policy will often have the effect of reducing pollution and the which have benefits. And we also heard from the IC, right, just this week, that not only health benefit, but the health benefit spill over on education. So educational gain and pupils in London is improved after the introduction of the low health for low emission scheme, which is done in London. It's not quite unconsidered. The effect is that to reduce pollution. And so these are potentially huge effects that are nowhere near our economic models so far. Some prices, of course, could be a local area that affects most prices, and that would benefit mostly householders, which tend to be the richer side of the income distribution. And also the way that the policy itself is designed to increase cost depends. And the good-to-pay principle, which would charge, say, companies if they pollute, sometimes get waived because you want to protect certain industries, and so that will also have redistribution effects. So there's a lot that we maybe haven't quite unpacked yet. So in the next slide, I have a first attempt to setting out some dimensions, some indicators of the groups, or the employment, of course, income and distribution, but houses as well. Of course, you have advanced up to the risk of exposure, climate change, inequality, poverty, and identification. Of course, remember that the dimension of the just transition are not just across individuals, but across regions and across countries. And so that, again, different types of studies they need to be put in place. And the policy lines that affects the way the different parts of our society are affected. And so there are compensation schemes that we introduce. This is a list of some, like typically the studies find that loss of distribution mitigates these effects, but so you can have also do tax reform, change taxation from labor, and so on. So in the next slides, I have a few studies, emerging studies, that look at the just transition specifically, so the distribution of impact of climate policy. There again, with approach modeling or econometric studies, reports, mostly evaluating the use emission scheme. There's one in China, very recent. And what they tend to find is that climate policy are progressive, so they disadvantage also at the lower end of the income distribution. We also find a last study finds that so the EV one finds that subsidy for purchasing electric vehicles will to some extent mitigate the regressive effects of the climate policy of the carbon test. So there are some initial studies, nowhere near enough to give us a sense of macroeconomic impacts, or have a reliable macroeconomic multiplier, if you like, but it's a start. And so again, the starting point has to be thinking about just transition is what would happen if we didn't have climate policy, what would the actual climate impact be? And when I say the economy, I mean this socioeconomic system, so individuals and households within the economy. And this is where really economists start thinking about this. But you should next slide. Like was really hard this morning. Climate change is only one of the 5 huge threats that nature and biodiversity face. And so really, this is a big case when it comes to really planning the sciences, like in a big way. Because there is very little of the all other the four like risks and threats that have really well established economic analysis behind them. And also where we, as we know, we heard from previous reports, these threats interact with each other. So climate change may cause biodiversity loss, biodiversity loss, loss of forests, makes climate change effects worse. So these are really important issues that the science has established and assessed, and economists really need to be able to start to speak with this. And finally, next slide shows how this is leading to, us operating outside the safety zone or the planetary boundaries, where we have reached 4% that we quantified into and quantified it. So where do we start? Next slide. So as Luther reminded us a few years ago, the economy is not separated from the biosphere. The economy is entirely in the biosphere. And so really, this is the starting point for economists. And so resource economics, of course, is always highlights how nature is a source of services for the economies. So 3 types, food in 3 types: communities, waste, and resource. So the next slide, I have a little bit of prescription, so natural resources, maybe a flow, so solar, wind power flows, and stocks. Some of them are renewable, so population is renewable, some of them are not renewable on a unit scale, like some involves fossil fuels, some use reversible, like recycling, some irreversible fossil fuels. Then we don't really appreciate the value of the waste, the nature's sink of our waste. And we don't even agree with the conscious of whether it's a stock or a flow. So I think we kind of understand the amenity service idea that recreation services come from nature. I'm not quite sure, even if it's not material consumption, we don't really incorporate the models yet, but I think it's we can understand that. Well, one of the big problems economists have, that the study has pointed out very clearly, is that we have this idea in a production, in aggregate production function, you have all the inputs, and then you have this economies and output. And one of the inputs can be different like capital, natural capital. So we have physical, produce capital, we have human capital, and you can hear natural capital. But the fixation of the economists is that there is substitutability between any of these inputs. So you can replace human capital with produce capital, you can replace the worker with a machine, and so you can replace nature with a plant. You can replace students with students in a student pool. And it really is that much accessibility to human society. There are people with some fundamental services for nature they cannot be substituted for. And I think really this is the base of the difficulties that becomes in taking this support. Having said so, next. So again, repeating studies we said in the morning, and it's a human activity that is destroying nature and it's putting nature risk and the services that we get from nature. And so it is the beginning, next slide, of some attempt to quantify the impact of losing the natural environment. So, for example, this article in the American Economic Review estimated the localization vouchers in India increased human mortality by 4% by the way that the carcasses remain in the environment and pollute the air. Jones look at a loss of forest canopy due to invasive species and find that even a 10% loss of canopy results in higher temperature and therefore additional animal deaths and emergency departments. So we're slowly building up this. There is a little bit of effort to try, first of all, quantify the benefits of nature, the contribution of nature to economic growth, and also to understand what happens when nature fails. But there's still a long way to go, and so I think this is the message I will conclude with. Thank you very much.